Welcome to Not Entirely Unlike Tea with Christine Collins. Hey there, it's Christine Collins, and we have a really interesting topic today, which is to ask the question whether or not intuition is real and can it be proven by neuroscience. Many of us will have had an experience somewhere along the way of getting a gut feeling. Something feels off. We're having a sense that a situation doesn't feel quite right, whether it's a person we're interacting with or a situation that we find ourselves in. And often we might find ourselves questioning whether or not we should trust that gut instinct or whether we're making it all up in our head. Now, of course, sometimes we do misinterpret situations. There are moments in which we don't have enough information or we are misreading someone else's cues. There are certainly moments where another person is simply tired or distracted or dealing with something else, and we interpret it personally and maybe take it the wrong way. However, that being said, there are signals that we are able to process at subconscious levels where we are not necessarily interpreting them and aware of them at the conscious level. Our brains and our sensory data can pull in a lot of information below our consciousness. And sometimes we are actually receiving data that is very useful where we're being informed of something that is important for us to notice. In any given moment, our brain is processing thousands of signals, various different types of sensory data that we are not consciously aware of. So examples of these include things like microfacial expressions, facial expressions that last less than half of a second, too fast for us to consciously register, versus someone smiling or laughing or frowning. These are micro expressions that we may not notice or be able to kind of put a finger on, but the brain catches them. And research shows that when someone is lying or experiencing some type of emotional arousal, their face will actually reveal some of their true feelings in those tiny flashes before they're able to master and control it. So your amygdala, which is your threat detection center, is constantly scanning faces, picking up those micro movements that you may not consciously notice. And there are hundreds of behavioral cues linked to different types of psychological discomfort that your brain can automatically keep track of. And it's not just facial expressions. There are body positions, body movements, things like feet positioning, things that are discrepant between the person is smiling and yet there's some aspect of their body language that's sending a different message, and that subconscious surveillance system that we have is picking up on those cues. We also have our peripheral vision, and it bypasses some of our awareness, where your visual cortex is allowing you to see things and notice things. There's sometimes complex analysis that is happening in the periphery that you're not necessarily conscious of. And it's very fast, sometimes too fast for us to be fully aware of. And your amygdala is already pre-activating that fight or flight response before your conscious mind even knows what was going on. So if there's an object coming at you from the corner of your eye, your body might be responding before your brain even fully catches up to what's happening. And there is prioritization of threats in the periphery by the brain, devoting a pretty high percent of attention in order to calculate those threats and those risks. We also have cues that happen within our pupils in the eye. So when someone around you is experiencing emotional arousal or stress, your pupils may dilate in response. We may also respond to sounds that we don't consciously perceive. So your nervous system is constantly reacting to emotional cues in the environment that you may not be aware that you're even detecting. We also have some subconscious smell detection related to emotion. So when people are under stress, their body releases some chemical biomarkers, and those chemical signals are subconscious, but they can affect behavior in noticeable ways. So when you smell that stress in someone else at a subconscious level, you might feel more cautious. You might be a little bit more pessimistic in your judgment of them. If you're detecting other things like their anxiety, you may respond to that. So we can smell some of these emotional states without even being fully aware of what it is we're picking up on. We just get a sense sense that something is off, or we get a sense that there's something happening. And then we adjust our behavior accordingly without being aware of that all happening at the conscious level. We also notice changes in people's voices, pitch changes, frequency changes, speech patterns that are tied to their emotions and their stress and their cortisol levels. Subsonic frequency changes that you may not notice consciously, but your brain is processing. And we are so attuned to other people that sometimes when people are watching the same movie or hearing the same story, their heart rates will actually synchronize to whatever's happening in the stimulus. So there's a lot of communication happening between the sensory stimuli that we're picking up on and the information as the brain is translating it for us to be able to respond quickly. And much of this ties into that gut feeling that we might get, that sense of intuition, is sometimes our brain actually doing this massive integration and analysis of various different types of signals in our environment and as we're interacting with others that we're not consciously aware of. And that is partially why it feels so mysterious, because we're not necessarily aware of our capacity to detect and analyze these various different types of data. But our emotional response system kicks in and lets us know, I feel a little bit uncomfortable around this person or in this situation. And we're collecting information about our environment to keep us safe, to protect us, and ultimately to help us to make good decisions. So while I think it's very important that we give people the benefit of the doubt, we do need to keep in mind that sometimes people are just having a bad day. They have their own stuff going on, and often it's not about us. At the same time, it's also equally important that we do trust our instincts, pay attention to the way that we're responding and how we're feeling, and not being dismissive of those little nudges just because we can't find logical data to support that feeling, because we might be actually processing subconscious data where something is discrepant between the person is saying nice things and smiling, but there's a part of us that doesn't feel like it's trustworthy. So those are important signals to pay attention to as well. So I think it's about striking a balance between benefit of the doubt, keeping an open mind, remembering that everybody has their own stuff that they are dealing with and that it's often not about us, and at the same time protecting ourselves, honoring those intuitive nudges that we get, and then making a conscious decision about what seems to be best. And if you would like to work on further developing your intuition, one of the best ways to do that is to go within through tools like meditation, yoga nidra, hypnosis, and EFT tapping. It's a perfect opportunity to step out of the chaos and all of the external stimulation, take a break from all of that, take a moment to yourself, have some quiet time, useful, calming, reflecting, and soothing of the nervous system so that you can approach situations with your best possible self. And I do offer that in my monthly membership. Show notes will have all of the details of the Hypno-Pothecary, nicknamed the Poth. And until we connect the next time, I wish you the most magical and creative rest of your day. Thanks for listening. This is Christine Collins at transformcreate.com.